Okay.
We are recording now. Welcome everyone to another town hall. Looks like we're still waiting for some. We'll get going in just a minute here. I'm just getting a couple things set up. Um, Not seeing anything in chat. Sarah, are you getting those links together?
Yeah,
Okay.
me, um, I, okay, maybe, um, okay, do you have it?
Yep, got it. Thank you. Let me copy those in here. Hi, John.
Hey there.
Okay, let me share my screen. We'll get started.
Jeremy, before you quite get started,
Mhm.
I have a conflict at noon, so I tried to join this meeting from my browser and I got an error. So if you get a chance to make sure that that's allowed for town hall participants, it might help me.
There is no separate setting for that, John. So I don't know what that was, but there's no setting on our end to allow meetings from the browser or from the client or anything like that.
I think there is, but I'll send you the link, but we don't have to deal with it now.
Yeah, I've never seen such a setting. Okay, so I'm gonna look at some posts on the hub first. Lumio is Lane unable to join Lumio to vote. Okay, I did see some requests to join and I approved all the ones that I saw. Let me take a look right now. Fresh. Yeah, everybody's been approved, and that includes Ghislaine. She's been approved. She's a member. So maybe that was outdated. Maybe that was before I got to the approvals. But yes,
Okay,
that's taken care of. Coastline Maker's Hand. All right. We have a month left or so with our current team. We're looking for people who would like a custom-sized Phoenix hand. We're pretty good at it and can have it shipped ASAP. So they're basically looking for a case to handle somebody that needs a device, it sounds like. Um, yeah, I hopefully they'll get some responses here. Everyone needs demand. Join the club. Yeah. So that's kind of echoing the issue that we already know is there. We have lots of volunteers wanting to help people. We haven't done a good enough job of getting people into that pipeline who actually need the devices. So that ties back to some of the things that we're working on, which we'll be talking about in the next meeting, the strategic planning meeting. I will say that meanwhile, though, while we're working on getting a new website up and running with a different matching platform, we do now have 3 case facilitators on e-NABLE Web Central. I trained somebody else this week. So we are making progress of cleaning up the stale cases on e-NABLE Web Central, and it might be worth taking advantage of that platform while we have it. Just go and look at the available cases. There are some cases in there. I don't know whether there are any that would be a fit for coastline makers right now, but it's worth checking. You can just head over to e-NABLE Web Central and look at the map for available cases. Yeah, John, did you have a question?
I'm just wondering whether a proper response to messages like that, and there's one every week or two, um, is would be for us to be able to say, um, there are people seeking other 3D printable assistive devices from makers making change. But the real point of this question is to say, did they have a pipeline of askers who we can direct our way?
Yeah, well, that would be a good discussion, I think, for our next meeting, because part of what we were looking at within our kind of budgeting discussions was having somebody that would handle outreach and partnerships, and that would be a good example of something that really needs somebody to take the lead.
Right. So that's
Because I think
relevant to Madison's proposal, which
it
is
is. I
currently
think it's a
under
great
review.
idea. It's just, as always, it's a matter of execution.
Okay.
I am seeing, it looks like at least one case here. I know it's not much, but as of within the last week, there's a case here from Denver, Colorado, of somebody seeking a hand device. They've offered up, they've specified a number of different designs, and it doesn't look like there are any volunteer offers yet. So even ignoring all of our stale cases, there is at least one unclaimed case there, so that might be worth looking at for coastline makers. All right, so then moving on, Carl. Every time I try anything on this site, logging in, editing my profile, etc., my antivirus blocks two sites called MASV Test and MASV Test 2 and reports them as riskware. All right, I don't know why would there, I know what those are. I mean, that's where MASV does his test development, but why would he be seeing any links to those sites? Do you know, John?
Um, I know, I have no idea, but I think the point is,
Well, Sandra already did the right thing in flagging MASV. It looks like he hasn't responded yet, but that was just within the last couple of days. So hopefully he'll respond. I think he's the only one that can answer this. So I
I
don't know
guess,
why he's getting that, but I will say that though we know MASV and he's a good trusted guy that does development for us. So I suspect those are false positives and that there is no risk of malware, but I don't know why he'd even be seeing those links. So that's the best I can say for now. Daniel, Open Bionics. Found this poking around on the internet. Has anyone interacted with these folks? Well, we certainly know of them. Have you had any interactions with Open Bionics, John?
no, not for quite some time, but Jack has a
Apparently
really good
Jack does,
response.
yeah. So he says they're great people. There's more than just an incidental relationship with e-NABLE. Steve Wood designed the Flexi hand. He then went on to become one of the primary designers at Open Bionics. Most of them are too difficult for our volunteers to print and make. He often runs into similar design trade-offs with Kuawu. If I increase usability and functionality, it's more difficult for most e-NABLE volunteers to print. If I try to stay closer to our buildable, what's buildable, then there's the need for then if I try to stay closer to e-NABLE buildable than Steve has, hence the need for him to go to a commercial company. So yeah, it's an important trade-off that Jack is talking about here. I mean, they focus more on really high-end, very nice looking, very highly functional devices. But there is a much higher level of difficulty associated with producing those. And it's probably not a good fit for just kind of a disorganized collection of volunteers like us. Um, let's see, Jack is saying that he's decided that the same for lower leg. None of his leg designs are open source. If you're a professional clinician, you can get free access to his lower limb design software. That's interesting. He expects that Kuawu is moving in the direction of being targeting more professional makers as they get more functional. It looks like it's going to become harder for volunteers to handle. So that's an interesting discussion. I don't think I have anything to add. I think that was a really good response to Daniel's question. Anyone else have any comments or thoughts here regarding Open Bionics? Okay, let's move on. Rashab, hand therapist. Received an email from a certified hand therapist who has two patients with partial hand amputations and is researching options. 79-year-old male, retired carpenter, complete amputation at middle finger and most of ring finger. So I guess that's what we're seeing in the photo here. And then another patient, 80-year-old male, retired farmer construction worker, amputation of the tips of all digits, decreasing residual length from index to small. Oh, so no, that looks like that one.
Right,
So maybe we don't have a picture of the first one. I'm
right.
attaching a couple of pictures from patient J. Okay. Can anyone suggest a design? All right, so I know we have the Nick finger, but we had this discussion before. Do we have a partial finger design? don't know if you could just maybe
I-
use part of the Nick finger, maybe eliminate the bottom joint. I don't know how that works.
Well, last meeting, we unearthed the bionic finger, which I think is an improvement on the Nick.
You mean the kinetic finger?
That's what I meant to say,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, this is interesting. But again, this is more of a full finger that I guess though, because it looks like it's open on the inside, it looks like a finger could come all the way up to this part, almost to the tip. I could see how this could potentially work for what we saw in that photo. I'm guessing, but I mean, it looks like this is one that a finger could fit into. Um, this is a very interesting design, which Eric Bubar shared. Needs to be
And
printed in tough resin.
Sarah, would you reach out to that person? Oh, that looks like one, well, it should be added to our catalog, but it's in the process. Eric would put it there.
Well, Eric, remember, Eric is the one doing the more selective catalog on
Right.
printables, but Ian Roy should be made aware of this.
Right.
Okay,
I
great.
mean, do you want me to ask Eric to,
You can maybe just flag Ian here, just
okay,
tag him and say, hey,
okay,
let's make sure to get this design into our NIH catalog.
okay.
Thank you. And then another message from Ghislaine about the map. Does no one have any idea how long it takes for chapter to appear on the map? Okay, I thought I was up to date, but I could be behind on chapter authorizations. I don't have that open here, or do I? Oh yeah, here's enable chapters. Just take a quick peek here. Enable. Let's do a search for. Oh, here it is. That's the last one that came in, so I'm not up to date. Looks like we have the badge link, a Facebook page. I just need to get the image uploaded and put in the latitude, longitude. So it is indeed waiting for me. I will try to do that later today. Thank you for your patience, Ghislaine. The answer is it usually should be happening within a few days, but I sometimes run behind on these because it kind of fell back in my lap a while ago, and I'm just not able to keep up on these all the time. So sometimes it takes longer. I will try to get to that today. Okay, so on we go.
There's one more that I'm sorry it got cut off when I sent, but there's one more from Coastline Makers. It's in the chat.
eh,
It's about sensors.
Wondering if anyone knows the best functional device to use that uses electronic sensors that would cost under $200 to assemble. Just finished making the Phoenix. Thierry already asked if they're looking for a motor-driven hand or sensory feedback on a regular device. He mentioned the Hackberry. Um, Seems pretty costly, says Coastline Makers. Eric has worked on a lot of bionics for enabled designs on and off the years, probably hundreds of undergraduate capstone engineering teams that can promise a cheap 3D printed prosthetic. They all jump straight into buying pieces and putting something together without considering the most important part, which is the user experience. You need to create something that's lightweight, easy to use, and just plain works. That's a much harder problem. That's a great point, Eric. And he gives some lessons learned here from his experience, which looks like some very detailed and valuable feedback, including details about part considerations and cost estimates. So I'm not going to go through all this, but that looks like a great response there to get them started. Xavier, for a few months, been working on prototypes based on a modified kinetic hand. Interesting. Now has a working device that's very cheap, under $60, including motors and electronics. Very easy to print and assemble, weighs about 250 grams. Very interesting. Now I see that all the electronics fill the palm cavity, so this would be appropriate only for, certain types of limb differences, but looks pretty interesting.
So Vivek should have this guy on the show, so to speak.
Absolutely, yeah. You want to tag Vivek here and make sure that this guy Xavier gets included in the next Bionics team meetup, and make sure that Coastline Makers is aware of that as well. Sarah?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm still working off of Adam's notes here, so I'm not familiar with some of these things. I think we kind of covered this one about Christopher in Tanzania the best we can for right now. Any updates there, Sarah? I know you were trying to get Cecilia's contact info to get a
Yeah,
meeting.
I don't have any updates there.
All right, so then we're just going to leave that in Sarah's capable hands, and she'll do her best to get with the prosthetist there to get some details. Morning, Jason. Perfect timing, right as I get to grants reports. Do you have any updates for us there, Jason? You gotta unmute, my friend. There you go. Hold on, you're unmuted, but I'm still not hearing you. Check your mic.
Oh, let's
There
see.
you go.
What about now?
Now I got you.
Double muted. All right. Yeah, I was lurking in the background for a few minutes, but I had a couple of conflicts here.
No
Uh,
problem.
so a couple of updates here. Jeremy, as of this morning, I did send you a Google Sheets for
Oh.
the purposes of utilizing as a tracker of what's been applied so far in 2024, including all of their statusing.
Okay.
So we did mention on the last call utilizing the cytokinetics grant as an opportunity of going through a new process and kind of having more of a multi-contributor review there. So to that end, I have filled out as much information as I'm prepared to. And my next steps are I've highlighted a few needs, which are actually going to be applicable across the board here. But we've got a few outstanding items on this one. One, we need to determine what this process is going to look like as far as sending for an approval and any manner of community space that we want to contribute this to. I filled out all of my responses. We do have a couple of places where there's a place for an additional files, which I believe is going to be an opportunity for us to get a standard one pager together for a general overview. That's what that section is going to be reading like. And then we have another attachment section and things I haven't really seen in this stage of a grant application process before, but it's a cover letter or proposal on your organization's letterhead, including a signature block of the organization representative. So if we've got a standard letterhead that's floating around out there, I think that would be good. And, John or Jeremy or a combination, having some manner of e-sig on there or, something like that. And then a completed W-9 required to process payments. If they're asking for that at this stage, I'm going to view that as a positive indicator. Of course, I've taken positive indicators.
Would that be
Rochester? Excited, but
would that be Rochester enables W-9, John, or how would we handle that?
Yes, I don't know whether, I'm looking now to see if we have a W-9. And I'll let you know.
okay. So Jeremy, I'm not sure if this is something we want to discuss in our following session today or take a bit of time now as far as bringing this one in for a landing. And
Are you referring specifically to the cytokinetics?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have some time now, but what else? It sounds like you need a W-9 from John. You need some letterhead and signatures. Is there anything else that we need?
Yeah, just wanted to talk more on the one pager and how I can help, and is there some manner of template that we already have available that we can build off of. I know we had mentioned this before, probably a month or two ago, but is that something that we?
Well, I think that would probably be a good discussion for the next meeting, because I know that kind of thing, I don't know if it's exactly what you're talking about, but that kind of thing, a very compelling one-page kind of impact overview, if you will, is something that Sarah expressed interest in working on, but that should be a funded project. And so I think that would be a good part of our next discussion. But I mean, I think that would be the best way to get that done. She's shown samples of that kind of thing she's done for other organizations, and I think it looked
Yeah.
great. So
And
it would be
I
good.
don't have a timeline left on this grant of, 30 days or anything like that. There's, I haven't seen an end date, so we could use this as our momentum to get that funding secured, for that particular material, but.
Okay.
Otherwise, those will be by end of my updates. More to come.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you for putting this together and for pursuing those.
Yeah.
Our enable fund balance is just about the same as it was, just about 102 grand. And we're hoping to be putting that to good use, which we'll be discussing in the next meeting, strategic planning. Everyone's welcome to join that as well, if there's interest. In fact, if any of you here want to join that aren't already included, just put a message in chat and Sarah will get you the Zoom link. Okay, let's see, open discussion, storytelling, John and Sarah meeting in Lisbon. I don't know if any of these topics are still relevant. Let's look at action items. I don't know if these are still up to date. Igani partnership. Oh yeah, that's right. We looked at these last time. They don't really look like action items. Missouri AT program. These are just updates. Did we get the Dodora annual report sent to them?
I'm sorry, to whom?
The Dora annual report, did we ever send that?
We did.
We did. Okay, so this is, I'm just going to cross that off. Mission statement options. I think this kind of has been
Now,
taken.
here's the rest.
Did somebody have something to say?
No.
Okay. I think the mission statement stuff has been kind of taken, that's been being handled with the draft document that Jason shared with us. Have you had a chance to do anything with that, John? I know we were going to kind of co-edit a Google Doc. I know I haven't done anything with it.
Yeah, I checked again this morning, and just for additional clarity, I know Adam had some initial comments on that document, so I did respond to a few of those comments to add some additional clarity about the intention of.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think this would really benefit from some input and comments from you, John, if you have an opportunity.
Absolutely. Can you put the link in the chat?
That's what I'm doing. Okay. All right. And then the website and Trello board, that's really a discussion that we'll be having in the next meeting. I did have a meeting with Morgan. So just for the purposes of this meeting, I'll give a quick update for anybody interested, because I know this website project is an important one. And it's a discussion that we've had going on Lumio. All the comments so far have been supportive. And so we'll probably be switching that to voting mode soon. Unfortunately, Morgan has scheduled 2 meetings now, and invited all of those, proposed project members, the people that said they'd be involved. And both times, Morgan and I and Jonathan were the only ones that showed up. So that kind of tells us a little bit about, who might actually have time to work on the project. So I think what that means, what Morgan and I talked about, is that, the proposed budget isn't likely to change, but I think some of that budget will probably have to shift from what we thought would go to volunteers to maybe having more help from contractors. But we were looking at paying both parties anyway, so I don't think that changes the dollars. And we'll talk about that more in the next meeting, but we need to try to get going on that. And I think we just might not be able to rely quite so much on volunteers as we had hoped, but we'll see who shows up for the next meeting, and we'll talk about that further, but we are trying our best to get that going. So I don't think I have much else here. I don't see much else in the topics that's relevant here. And I didn't prepare much. So let me just kind of open the table to anyone here who has anything going on, any projects you'd like to discuss, any kind of needs that you see. We always try to address sort of, roadblocks or challenges to the community in these meetings. So if any of you have any thoughts on sort of areas that we should be working on that would be good to discuss here. And let me just kind of open that up to anyone for comment now.
I do.
Yeah, John?
I'm going to share my screen
Okay.
when you give me permission.
Oh, hold
No,
on.
it's okay. I got it.
Okay.
So here I am. So I circulated this to Jeremy, Sarah, and Morgan, and got no pushback. So I'm now proposing some discretionary funding from the town hall meeting. By way of background, the
John,
big,
let me interrupt you real quick. We have some members here that might not be familiar with this. Let me just remind everyone that we previously voted, this is going back a couple of years now, that the e-NABLE coordination committee, which is what we call this group here, whoever's in the meeting basically, has the authority to approve kind of on demand up to $1,000 from the e-NABLE fund without having to go through the usual community voting process. So I just want to point that out so that everyone kind of knows what we're doing here. So you pay attention to what John is sharing because you're going to be asked to vote.
yeah, unlike usually, you should be paying attention here. So a year and maybe 2 years ago, I created this application. It is Your Planet and Mine Covered with Success Stories. Now, in this case, this was created for the Eco Restoration Alliance. And as you can see, each success story in each pin represents some individual somewhere. You get information about it. If you click on this panel, you zoom into the actual location. But the point is, this window can tell a whole story, and it works. It's been a very useful calling card for the Eco Restoration Alliance. I envision a big map of e-NABLE, which would have e-NABLE success stories, all the things that we celebrate in the hub, and there are thousands of celebrations to be culled from social media of smiling kids, happy projects, deliveries all over the world. They could be on the map. It would also include chapters, and with a little bit of work, you could have each chapter being able to show its own success stories, and it would become a superset both of the chapters map, but more importantly, it would become a way of demonstrating that we are having impact on identifiable people all over the world, even though we haven't been great at actually tracking and following through. The stories are what inspire people, and this would be a way of putting videos as well as pictures and narratives on the big map. I have a collaborator in the ERA who has already reverse engineered my big map and works for a firm that could do this in a way which is much less brittle than the thing I put together, which needs some work. For $1,000, he has offered, and the proposal is here. He has proposed to produce a wireframe to do a requirements gathering for what it would take to do one of these for e-NABLE, and to generate a report in order that we could then consider what I imagine would be a $5,000 or $10,000 project to actually make this thing true. Making it true would mean producing something that was robust, that included the management of the background data, which I have not done a good job of, which would make it possible for people like me and you and other volunteers to easily add entries to the map, and like that. So this is just a proposal for $1,000 for phase 0, which would then be followed by a proposal that we can accept or reject for saying, let's actually get this done. I'm confident he and his organization have the skills to do it. And I think it's something I have wanted for a long time. I think it would be quite worth doing. I do have, as I say, this proposal. I have his resume. I have this background on his company, which is interested in the project. And I know enough to say, I think this is worth spending $1,000 to see if we can't make this happen. If everyone agrees, I'll go ahead and tell them to go for it. If people want more information or want a chance to review it, I'm happy to provide that also.
Yeah,
Hey.
I think it's worth exploring for $1,000 just to even if that's just feasibility and getting the plan together. I have one suggestion for part
Cool.
of that phase 0 for consideration. Well, I think the map is really good in its current form. When you go to explore it, when you're looking for, somebody that wants to browse that data, the only way you really have of doing that is by clicking pins on the map or by searching for a specific, name or something like that. One additional feature that I think would make it a lot more useful, it would be to add a simple like feature to each, so that as you're looking at a story, if you have a like button, then over in the view section, just have the option to sort by likes. And that way you could find those that have been most positively received that, lots of people have liked. And it would be a good way of finding those really kind of more interesting or more
Lovely
impactful
idea,
stories.
and
Yeah.
shouldn't be hard. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one other comment from me, just I completely agree the $1,000 is worth it, but also that proposal was just gorgeously formatted, and we get anyone to take that the rest of the way. So what does the full scale project and implementation look like? That is exactly the type of attachment that a grant is looking for. So and if all else, it's worth me stealing the formatting. But
I'll forward this email to you, Jason.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I think it's
Let's
great.
go ahead and wait. Was there a question there?
No question, just support. I think it's awesome.
All right, well, let's go ahead and take a vote then. You already know my vote and John's vote. You can use the little thumbs up emoji in Zoom, or you can say it verbally or put it in chat. Somehow I got to hear from everybody. I see we got a yes from Jason, yes from Jonathan. Jane, are you there?
There's 2 Janas.
Oh, one by phone. Oh, that was Tom, I think you said. Yes, in chat. Tom says yes. Okay, we've got a unanimous vote. Yes, then you're good to go, John.
That's fantastic. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, and Sarah, I'm sorry. I didn't mention Sarah, but she voted yes as well.
Okay, great. That's how I like to get things done. It never
Yes.
happened, but that's great. I'll move forward on this.
No, it's that'll be a good project and it's good timing, obviously. We've got to put this money to good use, and that's something that can benefit the community, and it'll help what Jason's working on, and it ties into a lot of things very nicely.
Okay. There's actually one other thing I want to say here. I'm eager to do this because this will also become an update for the Eco Restoration Alliance's big map.
Sure.
What he's going to be creating is an open source framework that can accommodate our data or the ERA's framework. Just, by way of disclosure, so I have 2 motives, and ERA is not paying for this, but it's going to benefit ERA as much as it does e-NABLE. My conscience is clear, but I have now done the full disclosure.
Doesn't bother me. I mean, these are both organizations that have, volunteers working to help each other at the end of the day. So if we can, help organizations helping each other, great. It's not costing us anything extra.
Cool.
Does anybody else?
Let me pledge that when the framework is made available to other people, it will be attributed to both ERA and e-NABLE, which we can then boast to grantors who are considering further support.
Yeah, great.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else have topics for discussion for today? Anything at all? Anything goes. If anyone has anything e-NABLE related, feel free to speak up. Questions are fine too. Anyone? Well, in that case, we can wrap
Tom
up.
Miller.
Oh, Tom,
Ryan,
yes,
it's
go
Tom
ahead.
Miller. Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone, and Sarah especially, for being patient with me, getting me the contact information, be able to dial in. Just real quick, 30 years military, retired. I'm working for the railroad right now. I've been around the world, 3 years in in Africa, Central Africa and Burundi, seeing the effects of the genocide there and civil war. You know, the children really play it heavy on my heart, and so I'm kind of ramping up. I'll be fully retired in a couple of years, but I'm interested in really helping out the community. I'm working. I did my first few prints, my test prints. I'm going to submit that for approval. But down the road, I plan to get much more involved.
That's wonderful, Tom. I don't know if anybody's mentioned this to you, but coming up on May 17th is our next new members meetup. That would be another great one to join because it's really specifically focused on people like yourselves looking to get more involved, and it's a group kind of trying to help people find their way and where they can have the most impact in the community. So that would be another great meeting to join. So you're always welcome in these.
Absolutely.
Too.
Thank you. Sarah gave me the information. I definitely plan to be on that.
Excellent.
Yeah, welcome, Tom. It's a pleasure to meet you. Did you say you're still in the military?
No, I retired after 30. I'm working for the railroad right now, doing bridge maintenance, Union Pacific. And I want to look at them too, because they've got not a grant program, but a matching gift program. They do it. It's basically, they'll match whatever people donate. So I'm going to see if you guys are on that list. Because you're a 501c3, I believe.
Please.
We are, yeah. John Schull here can help get you that information if you need for the 501c3. We have e-NABLE itself isn't an organization technically. We are kind of just a collection of chapters and individual volunteers. But John's chapter, Rochester e-NABLE, is a 501c3 and represents the e-NABLE fund. So that would be a very appropriate one to sort of tie into that kind of program.
That's perfect. I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah.
Indeed, you can click the link I'm putting in the chat for more information and for ways of making donations.
And Tom, I can just email that link to you.
Oh yeah.
I know you're dialed in right now, so you might not be able to see it.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. That'd be great.
The better link is this one.
Tom, I'm emailing that to you now.
Thank you. That works.
Great.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Tom. Okay, so our next meeting will be starting 20 minutes from now, where we'll have more of a strategic planning discussion. We'll talk about several initiatives that we've already been discussing about how to potentially put our current funding to good use to address some of the community's current needs. Everyone is welcome in that. And there is, actually, I was going to say the link is on the hub, but I don't see it on the hub calendar. Maybe I'll just drop that link into chat in case anyone here wants to join that.
I believe it is in the calendar. I think you have to click open to the calendar. It doesn't show in the preview.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I wonder why that is. So I'm looking at the calendar. Oh, you're right. So why isn't it showing as an upcoming event? That's very interesting. Huh. Well, okay, good. So it's on the calendar and you can get the link there and everyone is welcome to join. And I think with that, we'll call this one a wrap and see you in about 20 minutes.
Great.